have one simple request, and that is to have sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Okay. Could you ask Mr. Graff to come on in? Mr. Graff, could you come and be resworn? Good morning. Good morning.
Truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead and take a seat. We're just waiting for the jury.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm assuming that's a yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, hello. Attorney Mark Gravelin coming from Chicago as usual. I'm not caught up. I had a busy afternoon. I saw Miss Yesenia. I saw my IT guy, Tony. Shout out to Tony. He was horrified that I have an iPhone 10. His prescription is get a new phone. Then we had a wild late night with part of Manning's call, and here we are.
Good morning. Mr. Graff was just sworn in by the clerk, so he would be ready to
lawyer
go.
in the house.
Mr. Sykes,
Hey,
you may proceed.
Thanks for coming by.
Mr. Graff, we talked yesterday about, this is Plaintiff's Exhibit 3 and the defense has one. Can you see that in front of you?
I can.
Okay. This is the ski report, instructor's comments, filed by Eric Christensen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you reviewed it. You reviewed it?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Now, up top here, can I have the pointer? Let's see here. See, there's a time here, 11:55 a.m.
I see that.
Okay. Can we assume that's a fairly accurate time?
Yes.
And that Whitney Smith, when she picked up Terry Sanderson, marked it as 12:02.
That's when the dispatch came in, was 12:02.
Dispatch, okay, 12:02. Now, you noticed here, name of student. This one has been whited out, but on one that we have, it has Gwyneth Paltrow's name there, correct?
I don't know which one you have.
Well, the one I have has it whited out, but the defense has her name in there.
I see this one that's whited out.
Yeah.
I don't know who this guy
And
is.
this was a falsehood, correct? The name of the student wasn't Gwyneth Paltrow, was it?
I'm not sure the name of the student.
Well, Eric Christensen's student was Moses Martin. So if he writes name of student Gwyneth Paltrow, that's incorrect, right?
I believe this form is commenting on Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, as a student, but she wasn't his student, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, would you agree that the crash, the ski crash, was serious enough to warrant someone like Eric Christensen writing a formal report, correct?
It was serious enough that he made comments about it at the end of the day.
Okay. Is that a yes to my question?
What was your question again?
Serious enough to write a report?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And you recognize that he claimed here twice that he didn't see it. Right here, I didn't see it. And then a little lower. Did you witness the accident?
Really, it's best to keep the pores off the mouth.
No.
To be honest.
Do you see that?
Yes, I see
Okay.
that.
Now, despite the fact that he didn't see it, and Gwyneth was not his student, he blamed the male skier anyway. Correct?
This witness kind of has a smug cat vibe. That's what I'm getting from him. I don't even know who produced
Blamed the
him.
male skier for the crash, correct? Now, did that bother you?
Is there a question?
Yeah, there was. He blamed the males.
You allowed that.
It's a very simple question. Okay. He blamed the male skier.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, you
Well,
can
that
answer, or
wasn't
yes,
yes
he
to the
blamed the male
question.
skier.
It was yes to the judge question. I can't answer your question. I'm just reading before
Okay.
I answer the question.
Just read additional comments there.
I did. Yeah, I don't know that I see blame there.
First thing male skier stated was that she appeared right in front of him, thus admitting he was the uphill skier. She
Right.
never saw him because he came in from behind. Now, you don't consider that to be a blame?
I consider that to be just what it says, that thus admitting he was the uphill skier.
Okay. Did it bother you that now at the time you were in charge of all ski instructors, weren't you?
No,
What was your title?
I was the ski patrol manager.
Ski patrol manager.
Correct.
Okay. Ski patrol manager, did it bother you that a Deer Valley employee, an instructor whose report you read, blamed the male skier even though he didn't see it? Did that bother you at all at the time?
I don't see blame here. I just
Okay.
see thus admitting that he was the uphill skier.
Now, did it bother you, Mr. Graff, that on this report, he never got the male skier's contact information?
No.
Yeah, you're sitting there a day or two later, you testified about it, and you read this report, and there's a crash that was serious enough to haul someone down off the mountain on a toboggan. And this man who's writing this report never gets the male skier's contact information. That didn't bother you?
That didn't bother me.
Did it bother you that Mr. Christensen never gave Gwyneth Paltrow's contact information? That bother you?
That didn't bother me.
Did it bother you that Mr. Christensen never gave his contact information to anybody?
None of these bothered me because at the time, everybody skied away with the assumption that everyone was fine.
Okay, so your understanding was that everyone skied away, even though a ski patrol person named Whitley Smith hauled Terry Sanderson off the mountain in a toboggan, and in your definition, that's everyone skiing away because they're all fine, correct?
Whitney Smith responded to Mr. Sanderson in a different location from where the collision occurred. So they all skied away.
Now, let me ask you this. This claims here that a man with 4 documented broken ribs, 2 of which were separated, broken, not just cracked, separated. 4 documented broken ribs, said he was okay to 2 other ski patrollers that allegedly came by. Did that bother you at all?
That's my understanding of what happened.
Did it bother you that allegedly, this yellow over here, but a patroller came by that checked on you. Did it bother you that there was no log of that patroller?
No.
Didn't bother you. Okay. So nothing so far has bothered you, right? Okay.
These are just the facts.
Everyday life at Deer Valley, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did it bother you
swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I suppose.
that Eric Christensen, after this crash, goes to lunch with one of the most famous actresses in the world and her family? Did that bother you at all?
No, I think that's standard practice for ski instructors.
Did it bother you that 3 hours after lunch or so, that he then writes his report? That bother you? Did that concern you at all?
No, that's typical of what happens.
Did it ever occur to you that this instructor might be covering up bad conduct by himself to protect Miss Paltrow, a big spender at Deer Valley? Did that ever concern you or bother you?
No.
Did it ever concern you or bother you that he might be covering up bad conduct by Gwyneth Paltrow?
No.
Didn't you basically wink and a nod at this bad conduct? Wink and a nod at it.
Can you define that?
Do you know what wink and a nod means?
No.
Well, actually, you do, because we had a deposition on another case. But wink and a nod, as I'm using it, means you see something wrong, but you just wink at it and go on and don't do anything about it. Isn't that what you did here today?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Why wasn't this instructor terminated for filing a false report?
This is his report. There's nothing in it that's false.
Isn't it true that you believe he wasn't fired because he did nothing wrong? He did nothing wrong.
Correct.
Okay. And there was no cover up by Deer Valley, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes.
Have one question, Your Honor.
At least he got to his point.
Good to see you again, Mr. Graff. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
Very nice of you. It's okay. He was cooperating yesterday. I think I just need to go back to the old technology again. Okay, so I just want to ask you, Mr. Graff, one question.
Excuse me 1 second. I got my computer.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I just want to ask you, Mr. Graff, a quick question about the patrol log. Published this, we looked at it yesterday with you, Defendant's Exhibit 26A. You were asked questions, not today, but before you left the stand yesterday by plaintiff's counsel about this bad boot entry here. Do you see that?
I do see that.
And do you remember questions about how that was sort of a minor issue, and he was asking why that would be logged, but other major issues might not be?
Yes.
So can you explain what is a bad boot and what would it require of a patroller who came upon that kind of a problem?
I'm not exactly sure what this bad boot issue was, but it could be that a buckle was broken. It could be that, as funny as it sounds, could be they were on the wrong feet. You see things like that. So there was some issue that Jess responded to, and it was as simple as a bad boot.
And might it require a toboggan down the hill if someone had a malfunction that they couldn't get down the hill?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then this section here, 1202. Again, I'll use this little laser pointer. 1202 here. It over in the nature of the injury discussion, it says skier collision and disorientation. Do you know who wrote that?
I don't know who wrote it. Whoever is manning the dispatch is the person who puts these entries in.
Okay, so would it be fair to say then that it would not be Whitney Smith that wrote that?
It would not be Whitney Smith. They're transcribing what Whitney Smith is saying over the radio. So Whitney Smith was on scene 2 minutes after the call came in. And then whoever was there wrote down what she said.
Okay.
And she said that she was on scene of a skier collision with the patient experiencing disorientation.
Right. And the jury has heard what her experience was, and you don't know anything further than you've already told us about that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions.
All right, you are excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a possibility the witness may be called back?
Not from us.
Yeah, very small.
Okay, so you're still under, I guess, this trial, so please don't discuss the case with any of the other witnesses.
Okay,
Thank you. Mr. Owens, is your next witness ready?
Do we ever see the picture?
Yes. Our next witness is Dr. Schur. We will need an easel and to set up for him to draw, and we may need a second to do that.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
One simple request, and that is to have sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Dr. Scher?
Yes.
Good morning. Come on forward here and be sworn in as a witness.
Raise your hand if you
Do you
care.
swear that the testimony you are about to give in the case now before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
And then take a seat here and adjust your microphone, and then please state your full name and spell it all out for us. Thank you.
My name is Irving Schur, IRVING. Last name is SCHER.
So we didn't see the picture yesterday afternoon?
Thank you for being with us here today, Dr. Schur. Let's begin by just asking you what you understand your role here to be today.
Nailed it. Nailed it,
Teach the
Andrew.
jury about biomechanical engineering related to snow sports and particular skiing.
And do you have an understanding of what plaintiff's biomechanical expert, Dr. Boehm, has said about this case?
I've read his deposition testimony and his trial testimony. So I do understand what he's saying in the case, yes.
Okay, and you have opinions about his testimony, is that right?
That is correct. I've analyzed his biomechanical engineering analysis.
So the jury will get to hear your response to his analysis.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So before we get to that, let's talk about your background and training so they understand why you and not me are on the stand.
Sure.
So where did you go to school?
I did my bachelor's of science and engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. I majored in mechanical engineering and applied mechanics. And then after undergrad, I moved west and I got my master's and my PhD at UC Berkeley in the mechanical engineering department. And I had two disciplines that I specialized in. One was called dynamic systems. That's how objects move in space when forces are applied to them. And the other is biomechanical engineering. And that is the application of physics and engineering to the human body, in particular, looking at how people get injured and how to prevent injuries.
And did you do a PhD thesis?
Sorry.
I did.
And can you explain what you worked on? for
Sure. I was the last in a line of what we called skiologists. I studied the biomechanics of alpine skiing. I created load cells, so those are devices that measure the forces, and I put them in between the skis and the bindings. And I had different instrumentation on skiers, and it was the first time, or at least that I'm aware of, that anyone in the scientific community was able to measure the forces and the body motions of skiers from the top of the mountain all the way down to the bottom. And I did this with beginners, people who had only skied 2 or 3 days in their whole life, all the way up to professional racers. And so that's what I got my PhD in.
And this is actually measurements on the slope as people are skiing.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, I'm measuring the forces applied to the person and their body motions as they're skiing. Well, and falling. We did have falls as well.
Right. And so this is not just calculations in some ivory tower, but you're actually out in the field looking at
hands-on work, which is quite difficult when you have electronics and snow and water. It was challenging for sure.
And do you also do any teaching?
I did teach. After I graduated with my PhD, I did a small postdoc in the biology department at Berkeley. And then after that, while I was working for a company, I taught at the University of Southern California. I was in the physical therapy department on the medical campus, and I taught intro to biomechanics. And I also did research there at USC. And then I moved, I now live in Seattle, and I'm at the University of Washington. I have an affiliate professorship there. I'm an associate professor at the University of Washington, and I occasionally lecture, but mostly advise grad students.
What about professional licenses? Do you have any of those?
I'm a registered professional mechanical engineer in California, Washington, and Alaska.
And then in terms of professional societies, these groups of people that get together to research and work on a certain field, are you connected to any such organizations?
I am.
And what are those?
I am chair of a group called ASTM F27. If you've ever gone to a ski shop and purchased ski equipment or rented ski equipment and they set your bindings, what some people call DIN settings, that's based on the standards from ASTM, and I'm the chairman of that group. We also do other snow sports equipment. I represent the US for snow sports equipment safety at the International Standards Organization, so the ISO. So if you go over to Europe, you'll have the same release and retention settings for your skis. Your bindings won't pull off your skis. They use the same standards that we've developed here in the US. I'm also president of a group called the International Society for Snow Sports Safety, and that's more academic than the other two organizations I was mentioning. We call it ISSS. ISSS is the premier organization worldwide to present and publish your snow sports safety research. And we have members from all over the world: Switzerland, Korea, Norway, obviously the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's quite a great group, and it's really the group that helped develop ski binding standards.
So you do some research on the safety of snow sports like skiing, correct?
That is my main focus of my research ever since grad school, and I've continued to do that now.
And then you also evaluate cases in a litigation context, is that right?
I do. About 15%, 20% of my work is forensic work. The rest is research and development.
So most of the time, are you doing research to try and improve the safety of skiers on the hill?
Yes, and I should say it's not just snow sports. I work in other recreational sports areas, water sports, mountain biking, other areas too, but snow sports is my favorite, my passion.
So let's explain to the jury what biomechanical engineering is. just because we could use a refresher.
Sure. Biomechanical engineering is the application of physics and mechanical engineering to the human body. But in a forensic sense, it's what links the event to the injury. So if you have some type of event and there's forces and motions in the event, in the accident, the forces are applied to a person, there's internal forces on in their body at the joints or something like that. The amount of force and the amount of motion it takes to create damage to the body, that is biomechanical engineering.
And how's that different than medicine? They're both dealing with the human body, but what's the difference?
Sure. The medical field tends to take the injured person, figure out what's wrong with them, so diagnosis, and then try to get them better, so treatment with an eventual outcome. So most medical training is after the injury, as opposed to what forces and motions create the injury. We like to think of ourselves on different sides of the injury.
Thank you. Can biomechanical engineers determine the forces required to produce fractures of bones in the body?
Yes, there's a lot of research on that, and that's one of the main areas for biomechanical engineering.
So is there scientific literature that describes the forces needed for, say, rib fractures?
There is, yes.
And you're familiar with that literature?
I am, yes.
And let's maybe ask a specific question about that literature. Given your knowledge of it, does a 70-year-old man need to fall on his side with his elbow between him and the ground to cause rib fractures?
No. So there have been a number of scientific studies, mostly done by biomechanical engineers, but there's other scientists who have looked at this as well. And what they do is they take cadavers or portions of cadavers and they apply forces to them. Sometimes they'll swing a pendulum into the side of a cadaver or to the front, or they'll have a plate, a very heavy weighted plate, contact the person arm down, arm up at 45 degrees, or they'll drop the cadaver in different configurations, and then they'll see what injuries are produced. And so when they've done this, in particular for chest impacts, what we find is you can get lateral rib fractures, according to the biomechanical engineering literature. You can get lateral rib fractures with an impact to the side with your arm down or with your arm up. But you can also get lateral rib fractures from compression, so front to back compression of the chest. So if I press my chest in like this, what happens is the ribs actually bend out on the side, and that can create fractures on the side, and that's quite common as well. So rib fractures are not just from side contact, it can be from front to back compression as well.
So let's get to what you did in this case. So what did I ask you to do in this case?
Basically, you asked me to evaluate Dr. Bain's biomechanical engineering analysis to see if it was accurate and correct.
And what material did you review? I think you already mentioned you read his transcript and you watched his trial testimony. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And maybe for the jury, in case they need a reminder, he had that green screen in the back of him.
Right, just the talking head.
Exactly. Speaking from Florida, I think.
That's right.
Right. And so let's just start with his analysis. Do you agree with it?
I do not. I do not agree with his analysis.
And maybe before we explain why, just give us a sense of what you understand his method and analysis to be.
Sure. As I've gone through what he testified to in his deposition and the trial, looking at his calculations and what he's done, to me, there's two parts to his analysis. The first is calculations to show that Miss Paltrow had to land on Mr. Sanderson in order to get the rib fractures that he got. And then there was a second part that basically said, because Miss Paltrow had to land on Mr. Sanderson, that could only happen with Miss Paltrow hitting him from behind. It couldn't happen any other way. It was impossible. So that's my understanding of the kind of the two parts, the main parts.
Thank you. We'll go over those in more detail. As you looked at his analysis, you read everything that he read, correct?
I did.
And did you read even more than that?
I had additional depositions, that's correct.
of the various people that were at the scene of the accident.
That's right.
So let's get one thing out of the way. Do you agree with Dr. Bain that Mr. Sanderson's rib fractures did not occur during the initial skier-to-skier contact?
Yes, I think that's correct. There's no disagreement at this point, at least from the testimony I've heard. The skier-skier portion where they first contact, no matter which version we have, did not create the rib fractures. I don't think anyone thinks that at this point. So that's good. We agree.
And in terms of just a quick overview before we go into his calculations, which you can explain to the jury, do you believe that Ms. Paltrow's account, and I should say, are you familiar with her account?
I am.
And you heard her trial testimony?
I did.
And read her deposition. And
Yes.
do you believe her account of the collision is consistent with what you know about biomechanical engineering?
Object. Goes beyond the scope of this expert witness.
It calls for the evaluation.
Well, go your testimony. Would you please approach the bench?
Oh, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. That's right.
There was, and I hate, God, I hate this word. There's all bunch of dick pussy, dick pussy, dick pussy, dick pussy, going back and forth between texts with one another, and I never want to hear it again.
Okay, I'm assuming that's a yes. Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to that question. I was asking you, in your opinion, is Ms. Paltrow's account consistent with what you know about biomechanical engineering?
Yes, it is.
And maybe another way to put that is it consistent with the laws of physics?
It's the same question. Yes.
Yeah, and
exactly.
Dr. Bain, the jury heard, talked a lot about Newton's laws and the laws of physics, applying those to the evidence in this case. And again, in your analysis, as you apply them, Ms. Paltrow's account is consistent with those.
Objection, Lex Foundation. Overruled?
That's correct. Ms. Paltrow's version, her scenario is consistent with the laws of physics and what we know about biomechanics.
And then the account that Dr. Bain gave, and that is based on Mr. Ramon's account, is that consistent with the laws of physics?
I do not believe it is, and I can explain as we get into it.
Yes. Okay. Great. We'll explain that. Let's go to Dr. Bain's calculations, so you can explain to the jury your analysis of those. We have an easel, and as I understand it, you would like to kind of draw so that you can show them what the equations mean.
Oh, here we go.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so I'll grab the easel and then that board.
This should be really fun.
We can't block the judge. Judge, where do you want this easel?
On the screen. He's going to also need to see the screen. So is it okay if we put it right here? Are you going to be able to see that?
I can't see it, but it's really more important that the jury see it, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. And I think if it's okay with the judge, you can get off the stand and, sure. And there's your marker. Okay, so I'm going to pull up something that Dr. Boehm pulled up in his deposition. Do you remember seeing these documents? And for the record and for counsel, these are the notes in Exhibit 3 of Dr. Boehm's deposition. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I missed the question there.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So I'm just pointing you to.
Before you, these are not admitted exhibits, though.
Yeah, I'm not asking them to be admitted. They were just shown in Dr. Boehm's deposition, so we're showing them here as well.
Okay, but not in his trial testimony.
He's responding to these.
You said deposition.
He also showed it in his trial testimony.
So
Oh,
direct-
trial deposition.
I was going to say direct things to the judge, but
I recall this being flashed
Withdrawn.
during his deposition or during his trial testimony.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Scher. So you recognize this page?
I do.
And I was just describing it. This was shown in Dr. Boehm's trial testimony, correct?
That's what I'm pulling for.
And he explained that these are his calculations.
That's right.
Okay, and there's another page as well. I think it's the one just before it, correct?
That's correct. This is where he starts the calculations for the ribs. We're concentrating on the ribs here because that's what he says determines how the accident happened. He said the head injury doesn't matter for that. It's only the ribs.
Okay, great. So since I have very little idea what's going on there and you do, maybe explain to the jury what's going on.
Sure. Can we go to the page before this?
Sure. And maybe if you, it's just a little bit hard to hear.
Sorry, is that better?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a little better. Yeah, thanks.
So he's using some basic equations for what we call the center of mass to figure out what happens when someone falls to the ground. Center of mass is if you were to balance someone on your finger, the point that you'd hold them at so that they stay balanced. It's usually a little bit below your belly button, kind of midline front to back, midline left to right. And so if you took all the person's weight, all their person's mass and put it into one point, that would be the point that you're interested in. So that's what Dr. Boehm is doing in these calculations, is he's using that point for Mr. Sanderson. And this first part here, where he has this, that's an equation, X is position. So he's saying there's a certain distance that center of mass falls. And you can see that over here. That's 3.5 feet, or he does it in meters, 1.0668 meters. So center of mass falls to the ground. He's saying that there's no initial falling position, that's fine. No initial falling velocity, V is velocity. And then he has 1/2 acceleration times time squared. And that equation is correct. Acceleration here is the acceleration from gravity. So what he's saying is Mr. Sanderson's fall to the ground for the center of mass from 3.5 feet, which is probably about right, hits the ground within, and he calculates the time, he solves for time, 0.466 seconds. So that's the first part of that, which is great. The problem comes in that he then says the velocity at contact is 1/2 acceleration times time. And that is absolutely wrong. That is not the velocity at contact. The velocity at contact is just the acceleration times time. So he has this extra half. And it was unclear to me why that would be there to start. And I'm not sure why he put that in. But it creates problems for his calculations and his opinions moving forward. If we can go to the next page, I can explain that. So these are his equations. If you remember in his testimony, he said 4,000 newtons. And that's an engineering unit in metric for force. 4,000 newtons is roughly 950 pounds, I think in English, but newtons is fine. Over 4,000 newtons, you get the rib fractures. So what is this equation here? I'll show you that and then explain why that 1/2 makes a big difference. So that equation there comes from, at first, kinetic energy. We label that as KE, which is equal to 1/2 mass times
the jury is gone.
Velocity squared for that center of mass.
Nobody.
And he's saying, okay, Mr. Sanderson, as he
Nobody's
hits
going
the
to listen
ground,
to
has a
us.
certain kinetic energy.
Not
that energy
one
has to go
member of the
somewhere. So what happens is a force is applied from the ground to his center of mass, and he decelerates over some distance. So you can see here he has 3 inches written here. That's important. So this kinetic energy has to be taken up by some force over a distance. That's some amount of work, and that will equal the kinetic energy. And then he divides both sides to get the force. The distances cancel on this side. So the force on Mr. Sanderson is 1/2 mass times velocity squared divided by distance. And that's exactly what we have here. We have 1/2 mass, velocity squared, and distance. Now, remember, he's doing this in metric. So that 136, that is in kilograms. That's equal to about 300 pounds. So here he has Miss Paltrow and Mr. Sanderson's mass put together. So in this fall, he's saying, okay, the kinetic energy of both of them is needed here during contact. But can we go back to page 5? He uses the velocity here, the 2.29, that has the 1/2 in this. So if we go to the next page, yeah. So you can see he's using the wrong velocity. What happens is if you use the wrong velocity in here, let's do BAMES as, call this wrong. So what you get is 1/2 mass times 1/2 acceleration times time. Oops. Square there. Correct is 1/2 mass acceleration times time squared. So that 1/2 goes into this equation. What does that mean? That means that this half gets squared. It becomes 1/4.
Oh, sweet Jesus. What?
Calculated for this landing was actually 1/4 of the force he should have calculated. He was off by a factor of 4. So it shouldn't be 4,680 newtons. It should be 18,600 and some newtons. Actually, I have it.
And then I went to law school.
18,678 newtons.
So it should blow your mind
quite a bit.
And if I may, Dr. Scher, what this is obviously all at least new to me and maybe new to some jurors. What in the end is the takeaway there if there's that much of a mistake?
So there's 2 things. One is if there were 18,000 newtons applied to Mr. Sanderson's chest, we would expect much worse injuries. The biomechanical engineering literature for much less than that has many more rib fractures, internal injuries, all sorts of things. We don't see any of that for Mr. Sanderson. But the real takeaway and the importance in this case is the mass here. So because he does the 1/4, he needs the mass. He needs the mass to be 136 kilograms. Now, if you redo the calculations correctly with just Mr. Sanderson's mass, so Mr. Sanderson is about 80.5 kilograms, or roughly 177 pounds, at least according to the medical records. If you do the calculations with the correct equations and only his mass, you get over 4,000 newtons when he lands. Actually, you get 11,056 newtons. So if he were to fall to the snow using Dr. Boehm's calculation method the correct way, then just Mr. Sanderson falling, not Ms. Paltrow involved at all, he could get rib fractures. This is not quite correct overall. Normally we use what's called effective mass. So all of Mr. Sanderson's mass wouldn't go through his chest. Maybe there'd be some force on his legs. If he hit his head, some force on his head. We typically would say maybe 50% of his mass would be appropriate for effective mass. So instead of the 80 kilograms, we would do.
Yeah, that's that
Actually, I
factor of
should put over
2
here,
that
this
would take you right
winds
back
up
to the
being
original expert's opinion.
11,000 newtons. And if we do the 40 kilograms instead for Mr. Sanderson, so, and that's,
That's not
and we
really
use
right.
the correct equation,
What you
we
want to do
get,
is divide it by 2. His whole premise was the prior expert divided by 2 in
sorry,
each
I
of
don't do
them.
the math in my head.
I can't
5,000,
make this crap up.
500 newtons, approximately. What this means is Mr.
None
Sanderson
of it
can
matters
fall to the
because
ground
nobody's
without
following
Ms.
it.
Paltrow
Nobody.
landing on him and sustain the rib fractures according to Dr. Boehm's calculation method. So if done correctly, he cannot say his opinion that Ms. Paltrow had to land on Mr. Sanderson to get the rib fractures, which means that this goes through the rest of his analysis. So the rest of his analysis is wrong.
No.
So this is really critical, that 1/2 that,
You,
that
sir,
he did for the velocity, the wrong
are no Dr.
velocity,
Evil.
really through the rest of his analysis.
I have one simple request, and that is to have sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Correct.
That's correct.
But given the way he did it, if he did it correctly, you're saying that the conclusions that he came to are inconsistent with his opinion.
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so, yeah. Okay, doctor.
Exactly.
Let's talk about,
her face,
um,
which is exactly what he was complaining about.
let's talk about skier collisions. You've, as you explained earlier, done research to understand what forces are like on the ski slope. In this case, how would you apply what you know about physics to understand the claims about the ski collision?
Sure. I would apply Newton's laws to the contacts, the different versions of the events, and see what makes sense, how it would unfold. Do the physics of the contact that's being testified to make sense? Is it self-consistent?
And this may be another opportunity to draw some pictures if you need to, so feel free to if it will help you. But you were talking about the center of mass earlier. How does that concept factor into how you would evaluate the evidence in this case?
Sure. Yeah, if it's okay to draw again.
You may.
Thank you.
And I can see what you're drawing through the monitor here, so.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Great. And if you need more board or pages, we have them now. Is that correct?
I think we're okay with this, right?
Okay, yeah, great. Go ahead.
So the thing to know with Newton's laws, force equals mass times acceleration. If you have some, and I'm going to draw 2 versions of a skier, and I'm not the best Pictionary player. I'm going to draw a top-down version, and I'll draw a side version. So let's start with the top-down. So if we have a skier, and here's the skier's head, and here's the skier's nose, and then we have 2 skis. The center of mass would be, as we mentioned, looking down somewhere around here. Now, if you have a force that goes through the center of mass, so let's say the force goes through, then the person will accelerate in this direction. They'll accelerate along the line of the force. But what happens when you have a force that doesn't go through the center of mass? It'll create an acceleration going in that same direction, but it'll also, there's a distance here, it'll also create a torque, which is equal to the force times the distance, that will cause the person to rotate. And that's really important because if the force does not go through the center of mass, there's always a rotation. So if you're hit on this looking down, this would be the right side, then the person's going to rotate counterclockwise in this image. The same thing is true if we look at a skier from the side. So if here we have our skier, and here's their pelvis and center of mass. Our ski boot. And if the person, for example, has a force applied below their center of mass, then there's, again, some distance. That's going to create a torque and a backward rotation so that the person moves backward and falls back.
We're supposed
There's
to
two things to note with this for skiing in particular that's different than most other events. Skis have releasable bindings. So if I'm looking at this side view, the boot is held in by a heel piece and a toe piece. And so if you have someone pitching forward, if the ski slows and the person's center of mass moves forward, it'll create a torque on the boot and it'll release the heel of the boot. And for someone of Miss Paltrow's size, that could be anywhere from, well, it's approximately 143 foot-pounds. So 143 pounds acting over a foot.
Really?
Same thing is true for the top-down view. If we look at the toe piece for the binding, if there's a torque
diagram
on the ski, a twisting torque, the ski will also release from the boot. And for someone of Miss Paltrow's size, it's about 37 foot-pounds. So in front of the boot, if there's 37 pounds, 1 foot ahead, it'll release. If it's 2 feet ahead, it's half that value. So roughly 17. So these are the principles that we need to understand the mechanics of an impact and a fall.
So when we apply those principles to this case, what conclusions do you draw?
Sure. The first is
he is oblivious.
Miss Paltrow's version of events
his diagram is
consistent with
oblivious.
the laws of physics and how people move and rotate.
And what about Mr. Ramon's version?
For Mr. Ramon's version, I couldn't get it to work. It doesn't match with the laws of physics. The complete part of his testimony.
The catcher here.
And so can you explain why it doesn't fit?
The picture.
Sure. So Mr. Ramon's version.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
I can't guide you through this, people. I don't know.
So in Mr. Ramon's version, he says that he sees Miss Paltrow contact Mr. Sanderson squarely in the back. And he says that it's in the middle. It couldn't be any more in the middle than if he tried or if she tried. And then also that she rode him down. I think the quote was something like, in his deposition, he says, like she couldn't have been on his back any more than if he had strapped her to his back, something like that. So as they're going down in Mr. Ramon's version, Mr. Sanderson goes spread eagle, arms out, legs out. And the key for me is that Mr. Ramon says that the inside edges of those skis that are going into this V catch, and Mr. Sanderson stops on a dime. And if that were the case, then Miss Paltrow would keep moving, and, well, maybe I should draw.
Sure, go ahead if it will.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, draw us another dirty diagram. Let's see. I'm sure that will clarify everything, just like the last one.
So I'm going to try to draw a top-down version of this. So if we have Mr. Sanderson, and here are his skis. And then I'm going to use a different color for Miss Paltrow. How about blue? Miss Paltrow contacts him from the back. And now this is the same whether one ski is between his or both skis. If the skis are apart, it's a little bit different, so we can get to that in a minute. But if her skis are between his, let's just say, then when he falls, and here is his, so they're moving in this direction. That was probably obvious, but I wanted to make sure that was clear. So now we're still looking down. Here's Mr. Sanderson's back. Here's his head. Here's one arm. Here's another arm. Here's one leg, the other leg. Now, remember, Mr. Ramon says that his skis are in a V, spread eagle. So now, if that were to happen, then
perfect.
He stops very quickly.
Nailed it, Mr. Scher.
Is going
Fantastic.
to remain in contact somewhere around here, and her skis are going to stay underneath Mr. Sanderson. When that happens, it's like the center of mass continuing to move forward while the skis slow rapidly, which creates an upward force at that heel. It's going to create a heel release. But as you heard in the testimony, all the skis were on. It doesn't work. It takes actually very little force for this to release, the heel piece to release in a scenario like this. So it doesn't match with physics. And it's the same way whether one ski or both skis are in between.
Okay, so how do you know this, especially about the bindings releasing? How are you confident about that?
My experience, I mean, I've seen tons of binding releases. I know how bindings work. It's just physics.
Right. And you've specifically done research on binding releasing.
Oh, yes.
I just want to get that out there right now.
You said earlier that there were other scenarios, the skis maybe between Mr. Sanderson's skis, maybe they're diagonal. Did you do evaluation of all those sort of scenarios, and did any of those work?
No, I couldn't get any of them to work. So the key is either she would come out of the bindings or she would be stuck on Mr. Sanderson. She wouldn't be able to move past him. If her skis stayed on in various versions of this.
Change my thumbnail to
I
twerking
don't know
stick
how she
figures.
continues to move downhill the 10 feet that Mr. Ramon said she wound up.
People won't believe it till they see it.
Trapped underneath him.
And would you expect her to get an injury in any of these scenarios?
Well, certainly there's that potential, yes, a lower extremity injury for sure.
If, for example, her legs get stuck in one of the scenarios you mentioned.
Right. So, for example, if her ski is rotated out to the side going in that V with one of his skis, the other, whether it's on the outside or in the inside, can't wind up. So if her ski is on the outside, his ski is going to push her ski out. If this is her ski, as he's falling and moving into that V configuration, it's going to go from this position to here, and it's going to push her ski outward, which I would expect would create a toe release, a twisting release of the bindings, because it actually takes about 18 pounds of force, between 15 and 20, depending on how her bindings would be set. So very little force to release that toe piece. But even if it didn't release, then her ski winds up getting trapped by his, and she can't move forward. So, and in many of these scenarios, her leg would get twisted in a really odd way that would likely create injuries.
Okay, great. I think you can sit down again. And now what I'd like to do is ask you about whether you were involved in creating any animations that would help the jury understand your opinions in this case.
Oh, no.
Yes.
And Your Honor, if I may ask for permission to show
If those are your
witness,
stick figures.
these
I
animations.
want no part
so
of your
that
animations.
I can lay the foundation. He can use them to teach the jury.
Yeah, we reserve our same objections on these animations, Your Honor.
Understood.
Restarting.
I hope they did it like Simpson style, where it ends with a ball of flames for no apparent reason. Oh, he is proud of himself. He really does seem like a nice guy. He believes what he's saying. It's just.
Why don't we take a recess while they straighten out the technology, and then we'll be back.
Which is perfect. Because that is uttered by Flanders is in ski pants. Yes. Whew. All right. Smoke them if you got them. We'll be back when they resume.
Step down, whatever you need to do. Thank you.
Well played, Vanguard. Well played. Oh, Law and Crime. Law and Crime is going to take this as serious as can be. They have to. I don't blame them. They have to. They can't do the immature middle school route that I did. Sucks for them. Yes, you could do a little visual overlay of Gwyneth's testimony. It'd be perfect. Thank you, Legal Vices. That's awesome. Welcome aboard, Legal Vices people. We're doing in court stick figure porn. It's fantastic. You're gonna love it.
See, I'm going to use Miss Fowler's word. She now is in a throuple. And not only does she choose to be in a throuple, and she's shacked up in the bed with the throuple. Now, if anybody thinks this is okay, I am in the wrong world.
Gwyneth Paltrow. This is defense verdict all day. The only question in my mind is, do they award her the $1 or not? He didn't make his case. We did a poll. 70% think that she's winning. I thought she was not convincing at all. I didn't particularly believe her. I believed Sanderson more than her, but not completely. The problem is he's got the burden of proof. So I would be shocked if he gets anything in this case.
Everything
from what I've seen.
Working now?
Yeah, sorry, that we had plugged it in before, somehow it got unplugged, so it's out of battery.
Okay.
Dr. Sure is using the restroom.
Okay. All right. Why don't you go ahead and have the jury come in?
It probably depends on if they succeed in the counterclaim for $1. He got some attention. It's bad attention. And like, I mean, let's face it, Gwyneth Paltrow is way past her prime, so it isn't like hot. This is more somebody who used to be famous. I don't know if that's what he's looking
Dr.
for. I
Scher,
guess he got a little, but not worth much.
We're just waiting for the jury. Are you loud enough? Yes. Yeah, she's monitoring the audio.
Yes, you sound, yes, your audio's clear. I suppose, but really not very relevant currently.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. You may proceed.
Yes,
There's that.
May I approach to show the witness the animation?
You may.
So this animation is number 5, correct?
It is.
It's called Close Up. And I'm going to play it for you. Is this one of the animations that you helped prepare?
Oh, sorry, Counselor. I just see it again.
Sure.
Which number is it?
Number 5. It's called Close Up. And it's 22 seconds.
$22. It's called Close Up. I believe it contains a money shot.
So again, Mr. Scher, Dr. Scher, you're maybe explain to the jury your involvement in creating this animation.
Sure. I worked with Brian Brill at Mountain Graphics on the impact and fall portion of this animation. It's not meant to represent exactly what happened, but generally the idea of one of the family of ways this could happen in Miss Paltrow's version. We don't know some of the exact details of how they contacted, how long they interacted, but it gives an illustration of what I'm thinking, my understanding of her version, where they she's contacted from behind and then fall to the right.
And does the animation make certain assumptions about various facts and testimony in the record in this case?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and you can explain those to the jury as we go through it.
Sure. Yeah.
And the animation will help you explain what you said earlier about biomechanics, applying biomechanics to this case.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So permission to publish this to the jury, Your Honor.
Just, we assert our ongoing objection to the animations or cartoons. They lack foundation, distort the reality, and are incomplete.
So animation number 5 is received for demonstrative purposes only to help this witness explain his testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah. I mean, that's an appropriate objection.
Sure, I'm gonna
He's preserving it. You've already had the fight and he lost, but he's just preserving the objection for the record.
And use it as you need to explain. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Your Honor, we also object to the extent that this witness hasn't testified to any of the placement of any of the other skiers or bodies in this animation.
Mr. Egan, is that relevant to this witness's testimony, the other skiers?
No, he's going to talk about the collision itself.
So you should ignore any of the other skiers that are shown in the animation.
Okay, so you can reverse it, Dr. Scher, to just
This is
before the
weird.
collision, so we can focus on that and explain what you mean to show by this animation.
Maybe I can't. How do you?
You could press play again, and it will get to it.
Oh, here we go. Mom,
Okay,
chicka,
great.
wow, wow.
So, take us through, if you would, Dr. Scher, what this animation shows from your point of view as a biomechanics expert.
Sure. The first thing that you should be aware of is that this is Miss Paltrow's version of the events. So,
Dr. Scher, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh.
Just maybe pull your mic.
Sorry
Yeah,
about
there you go.
that. The first thing to be aware of is this is Miss Paltrow's version of the events. So that's what we're showing here. And as we move forward, I'll talk about the physics, kind of like what I drew earlier with the center of mass and the rotation. And that's the idea. That's what went into this. But again, this is not exactly what happened. This is just one of the possible ways it could have happened. So we have Miss Paltrow in black, Mr. Sanderson in the blue as they move forward in time. It's her testimony that his skis slid between hers. There we go. She felt a contact directly in the back, along her back. It sounded like her buttocks as well. The person was grunting, pressing against her, but they were on their skis for a period of time. If in this situation, he's also moving to skier's right, which is in the left in this image, that will create, remember I had the force that was offset from the center of mass. That's going to create a rightward motion for her, but also create some initial rotation. Now, in this portion, there's a number of possibilities. She could be adding weight to her right ski because of the contact from Mr. Sanderson. When you ski, if you're in, let's just take a snowplow or my kids call it pizza position. If you weight the right ski, you turn left. So if she weights the right ski here more because of the contact, she's going to turn counterclockwise. The contact from Mr. Sanderson, if it's more to the right, will turn her counterclockwise. So as they're moving to the right here, there would be some counterclockwise rotation. And here, her ski can catch, or she could pitch to the side, or they could both pitch to the side. They could both lose balance. We're not sure what happens. But as they're rotating, they're continuing to fall. And Miss Paltrow's version has them spooning essentially as they're coming down together, which would make sense if their legs got caught up. If he was contacting her below her center of mass, where his right leg was contacting her right leg, her thigh in that area. Also consistent with Miss Paltrow saying that her right knee was splayed open at the end and she felt right knee discomfort. that all could happen there. So as she's rotating and he's rotating counterclockwise, they fall to the side. Now, at this point here in the animation, I guess maybe the next frame, if I can do it. Mr. Sanderson lands on his right side, maybe the right back. It's hard to say. If he lands on his right side, kind of like Dr. Boehm said, he needs to land on the elbow, that can happen. That can create lateral rib fractures. But that's not the only way. His arm could be out. He could land on the side and create lateral rib fractures. He could land on his side and a little bit towards the back. And Miss Paltrow could land on him. She could be fully on him, maybe with her buttocks or her back or some portion of her mass compresses his chest front to back, and that can create his rib fractures. There's a lot of different ways this could happen. I can't tell which one of those is right, but all of those are consistent with her version of the events. As they hit the snow, they would continue to move forward until friction slows them down. And it's also important to note, we haven't talked about the head injury, but hitting the back of the head or the side of the head, he could have his head turned. All of those are possibilities for him to contact his head on the snow. So that's not inconsistent as well.
Would it be helpful to show it in real time? You've been doing it kind of slow motion, which has also been very helpful.
Oh, we get so much worse.
Maybe start from the beginning and just play it.
Okay,
I should encourage my chat.
Trajectory, speed, and direction.
Overruled. It's demonstrative of this witness's testimony only.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Schiff.
This is from the beginning.
And if there's anything you want to comment on as it happens, feel free.
Bam! Wham, bam, thank you,
that
ma'am.
accurately reflects the version that Miss Paltrow testified to that matches the laws of physics and biomechanics as I understand them.
And would it be helpful to show, there's one other animation that has a little zoom in from the other angle. Would that also be helpful?
I think, yeah, it can't hurt.
Let's show that then. Permission to approach, Your Honor, for that.
Okay. What's the number of this animation?
Oh, this
will be.
This is where it gets really raunchy. Watch out.
4. It's called Zoomed Inside.
It's called Zoom Inside.
Number 5. Oh. Okay.
Wait just a second.
Okay, Dr. Scher, so I'm playing you number 4, the zoomed in from the side version. Were you a part of creating this version as well?
Yes, this is the same animation, but from a different camera view.
Got it. And will this animation also help you explain the same things you've been going over with the jury?
It's the same thing, sure. Yeah, I think it also visualizes, it illustrates my opinion.
Okay. Your Honor, permission to show this animation.
Subject to the same objections by the plaintiffs, the animation for Zoomed Inside is received for demonstrative purposes only.
And in terms, I guess we've covered that. So maybe we'll wrap up here. You've covered a lot of things, a lot of new things, perhaps for members of the jury and those of us in the room. Will you summarize for us what are the main points that you want to get across for the jury here?
Sure. The first is that Dr. Boehm cannot say with any accuracy that Miss Paltrow landed on Mr. Sanderson. His calculations are wrong. And when you look at the equations done properly, Mr. Sanderson can land on the snow and sustain his injuries without Miss Paltrow falling on him.
And if I may, Dr. Scher, was it your understanding that Dr. Boehm's opinion was that his account was the only possible way the injuries could occur?
Yes, Mr. Ramon's version was the only possible way. He said Ms. Paltrow's was impossible, which I believe is false. I think Ms. Paltrow's version is possible.
Right. And would you say that Ms. Paltrow's is the more likely of the two accounts?
Well, considering it's the only one that matches with the physics of what would happen in contact, yes, I think so.
Okay, and I interrupted you. You were going through your main points. What was the next one?
Well, I think we've covered it. The second thing is that Dr. Boehm cannot say that Ms. Paltrow's version is impossible. That's absolutely wrong.
It sounds like you're saying, in contrast to Dr. Boehm, that there are various ways this accident could have happened. The injuries could have occurred for Mr. Sanderson. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you've evaluated the various testimony, correct?
I have.
And you've done a careful analysis from a biomechanical engineer's perspective on what different scenarios might be likely or how they would happen, correct?
Correct.
And is it your opinion that Ms. Paltrow's version is the more likely of the two versions that you looked at, Mr. Ramon's and Ms. Paltrow?
Yes. Once again, it's the only version out of the two that matches with the laws of physics, the biomechanics of it.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell the jury that maybe I interrupted you on and you missed out on?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now, Your Honor.
Can you keep the screen there?
Sure.
You can turn it off. Well, actually, leave it on for right now.
On or off?
On.
Okay.
Morning, Mr. Or do you prefer Dr. Sure?
Sure, that works.
Sure, Dr. Sure. This version right here. Can you back it up about to here on the scroll?
To here?
Yeah, and then go forward it out halfway between the last one. Okay, a little farther. Just before when Mr. Sanderson, who's also
Maybe it's easier if you do it.
well, could you just go a little bit farther forward? Just go slowly. I just want to get Mr. Sanderson, who's sometimes called Dr. Sanderson.
Mr. Chair, would you mind putting on the remote that allows you to be picked up?
Okay, how about use this?
Sure. Yeah.
Is this working? Oh, wait, now it is. Okay, go a little farther forward, please. Okay, and then when we get, okay. Now, this is Terry Sanderson.
That's Mr. Sanderson, that's right.
Okay. So his right eye is, okay, go a little farther. Oh, just another fractions, a little bit farther. Okay. So you have his head turned. That's based on your testimony that he is looking down the hill, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
I believe his testimony is that he's looking at a woman who's a little downhill to the left. He notices her, looks at her. I don't remember what the exact words are.
Okay, go a little farther. So his head, his left eye would be looking directly at Miss Paltrow. He would see her, right?
I believe so.
And it's inconsistent with his testimony. He didn't see her at all.
That's correct.
But he would see her there, wouldn't he?
I would think so.
Okay, go a little farther, just another fraction. Okay. Now, in this picture, you don't have Dr. Craig Ramon in there. How far above would this point be? Where I just pointed. How many yards would that be above this image right here?
I don't know without doing a measurement, but I'm concentrating on the collision between Mr. Sanderson and Miss Paltrow.
Well, Craig Ramon testifies he was about 30 to 40 feet above. So these objects are about bent over, maybe 5 feet high. So if we just flop over, 6 bodies, we'd get to 30 feet. That would be about right here.
I'm not sure.
Well, you're an engineer, highly trained PhD. You can't even guesstimate that that would be about 30 feet.
I can't tell.
Would up here be 30 feet? Don't you think it'd be a lot more than 30 feet?
Probably, but I don't know.
Well, you helped create this animation. You don't know the distances in your own animation?
No, I've concentrated on the collision portion. That's the biomechanics portion.
Okay, who did the?
This is a cheap shot by the attorney.
Estimates or guesstimates
Correct.
of the distances of the bodies of the other people.
So
This
that's
is
going
all
to
just
be
made up shim sham from
Mr.
you guys.
Boggart, who's going to be.
And he's
on soon,
making
I
his
assume.
point.
Okay, so this animation doesn't have Craig Ramon in the scene at all.
Not at this point.
Okay. Is it because the defense doesn't want him in the scene, so to discredit his witness account?
Oh, I don't think that's the case at all. You'll have to ask Mr. Boggart.
Okay, we will. Okay, let's see. Just go another little section.
You just tell me when. I'll keep going until you
Yeah,
say
just
stop.
go slow. I just want to go slow motion. Okay, now stop right there. Now, do you know the time, how much time from the initial, let's say, impact of their bodies to this point would be? You did this calculation. This is your bailiwick. What you're talking about.
Do you mean in the animation or do you mean in real life?
Right now. Yeah, from the impact to this point, approximately. So like a fourth of a second, a half a second, a tenth of a second. Do you?
Ms. Paltrow says that they're in contact for a little while, a few seconds before they fall over. So I don't know what it is in particular in this animation, if that's what you're asking.
So you helped design this part of the animation, so you don't know how far it is. You just guessed it.
Again, we don't know exact timing and distance. This represents an illustration of the version. So yeah, it is what it is.
It's an illustration of the version, but there could be wide variability in that version, right?
There is variability, but we have constraints on it.
The constraints are, it could have happened the opposite way, right?
The opposite way.
Ms. Paltrow hit Terry Sanderson.
No, I don't think so. Not with the testimony that's given. We have two versions. We have Mr. Ramon's version, and we have Ms. Paltrow's version. This is Ms. Paltrow's version. Mr. Ramon's version is very different.
Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. You're being paid, excuse me, you're being paid, what is it, $4.25 an hour for this?
No,
Is it more than $4.25 an hour?
it is.
$4.50 an hour?
Nope.
500?
It's 500 an hour.
500 an hour. And you billed something over $10,000 so far for your work?
That sounds about right.
More than 15,000?
No, I don't think so.
So between 10 and 15,000. Okay. You can turn that off for right now.
Is it, I think that's probably better.
No, please leave it there.
Oh.
Let me come back to it.
What's the best way to, do I just disconnect it? Is that? Yeah, maybe just disconnect. Like that? Okay.
No, you're here to teach the jury, right? The defendant's version, correct?
Teach the jury the physics that would be helpful in understanding how to assess the accident.
So that's a no. You're not teaching the defendant's version.
I'm not teaching any version. I'm teaching the physics and mechanical engineering, biomechanical engineering that would help the jury.
I know it's hard for expert witnesses to say yes or no, but are you teaching the defendant's version?
I guess I don't understand the question.
Okay. Seemed like a simple question. Next, I'd like to talk about, did you review Dr. Gibby's testimony at trial?
No, but I did see some of his trial testimony.
All of it or some of it?
Some of it.
Was it more than 10 minutes?
Probably, yeah.
More than 20 minutes?
Yeah.
More than an hour?
I don't think more than an hour.
Okay. You didn't disclose anything about hearing Dr. Gibby's testimony.
I'm not sure what you mean, but I did see it.
Okay. You've never disclosed to the plaintiff your reports or your testimony ahead of this trial, correct?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
And there was, and I hate, God, I hate this one. There's all bunch of dick pussy, dick pussy, dick pussy, dick pussy, going back and forth between tents with one another, and I never want to hear it again.
Are you an expert on broken ribs?
I am comfortable talking about the biomechanics related to rib fractures.
Have you done any papers or studies or research on ribs and rib fractures?
Me personally, no, but I've read the biomechanical and engineering literature relevant to them.
Okay. You haven't mentioned that biomechanical literature in specifics, correct?
I'm not sure about in specifics, but I think we mentioned it on direct.
Okay. So you said that Dr. Sanderson, or I'm just going to call him Terry. Terry was 70 years old at the time of this crash?
It's 69, but effectively 70 for biomechanics purposes.
Effectively because 70 is older?
No, because there's actually good information in the biomechanical engineering literature about the amount of chest compression required to create rib fractures for 70-year-olds.
And not 69-year-olds.
Well, it's actually the full distribution, but the paper that I'm thinking of from Agnew specifically talks about 70-year-olds.
You didn't mention that paper today.
No, but would you like it?
Not right now, thanks. I've not seen it. Let's see. I'm going to go right to another point. You have this theory of rotation, correct? That the version you're calling Ms. Paltrow's version is a kind of a rotation version?
There is some rotation. It may be a little. It might be more than a little. We don't know.
Okay, so we don't know how much rotation there is, correct?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to. Let me see if this thing works. It didn't work last time. Guess it's working now. May we take a picture of this?
I think you've already done it.
Okay.
Or someone on your team has.
Okay, good. May I borrow a pen?
Your Honor, we would object to him writing on the witness's board.
It's not an exhibit. It's certainly fair game.
Okay.
Of course.
So,
Well,
Doctor,
can we mark?
And right all over that thing.
Your Honor?
Why don't you take a picture of it and you can use that, and then he
Go ahead,
can
take a picture.
add to it.
Okay.
If you're really good, you'd make it even more vulgar, but act like it's but act like it's an accident.
Academic
We don't have any questions right now, so.
In academic fields, it's common that people write on each other's drawings, correct?
I don't know that I've seen that, but I don't have a problem with you drawing.
Okay. So,
Who cares? You're in
you
court.
testified that
Care
Craig
what they
Ramon
do.
says
You can do it.
Terry was hit directly in the back and they went down, and Craig Ramon was somewhere above 30 to 40 feet.
I think the expert
And it happened in a fraction of a second, correct?
has gotten nowhere.
Yes, the fall. I would agree with that.
Okay, less than a second.
Assuming all the facts
Okay.
in favor of
So,
Gwyneth,
there was a scream.
it's plausible he fractured his ribs that way. That's the
when
best
scream occurred, and there was
thing he
within a
said.
fraction of a second. And
Yes,
I don't
Miss
believe,
Yeti, I'm here.
Craig Ramon never testified where Miss Paltrow's skis were.
Correct.
So
I'll
her
call you
skis could have
soon.
been going underneath Terry like this. The pink ones would be Miss Paltrow's skis. Is that a version that is possible?
It is not.
It's a.
Oh, please,
saying it's not
please ask
possible.
him
That
what
is not possible
one
with the
figure is
version
smiling, the
that
other is
Mr.
frowning.
Ramon
Please.
His version didn't talk about her skis. Now here, I'll draw what her body. Pink would be her body, still square in the back. Isn't that possible?
So no, with Mr. Ramon's version, if I may, that is not possible. So in this situation here, when Mr. Sanderson's skis go into a V, and I guess you're saying her skis are under his skis, which I'm not sure how that happens because the tips curve up, but we'll go with it. Somehow she winds up in this situation getting caught with her left ski around Mr. Sanderson, and she would not continue past 5 to 10 feet, and I would expect a twisting release of her left ski.
Well, that's her version. I'm talking about Mr. Ramon's version.
No. I'm talking about what you just drew for Mr. Ramon's version.
Mr. Ramon's version. Well, isn't it possible her skis could be pointing straight like this? And let me get it right here. So she could be going straight, and she could be turning left and up and hit square in the back, but her skis are pointed this way. Isn't that another version?
So for her skis to miss, oh no, it's not. Do you want me to explain?
In a second. I'm asking the questions here. So so are you saying that her body could not be turned while her skis are going in one direction, or she's turning up to the left? Is that possible?
Not for Mr. Ramon's version. Is it possible in general? Sure. But in her version, in his version, no.
This happened in a fraction of a second. I don't think Mr. Ramon testified that he has a videographic or photographic memory. Do you?
Well, he's pretty particular in his testimony about how she was on Mr. Sanderson's back.
Right, and he could. You see the circle I have? Let's see. Well, actually, maybe I could do it. I've got it wrong. Let's do it the other way.
That sums it up.
Her body could be like
this is all awkward and silly, but it does make the point that it's just whatever you made up. Just whatever inputs you accept.
People turn all the time while they're skiing, and their skis are going one direction, but their body is pointing a different. Right here. Can you see me? You see that?
I see you turning, sure.
That's possible, right?
Yeah, he's a mild-mannered nerd.
Is possible. Are you asking,
he hasn't added
does that
much.
match with Mr. Ramon's testimony? No, and I'm happy to explain why.
I think Mr. Ramon's testimony is, it happens in a fraction of a second. Mr. Ramon, a professional wannabe freestyle skier, likes to talk about ski angles, but the main part is the body. He saw the body, and then the bodies go down together, and she lands on top of him. You're saying that your versions, which you are not based on anything except your recreation of the biomechanics, are superior to an eyewitness. Isn't that what you're saying?
No, we have two versions of the accident. We have Mr. Ramon's version, and we have Ms. Paltrow's version. I've assessed both using physics and biomechanics, and I'm sorry to say Mr. Ramon's version does not.
This is cross-examination.
The laws of physics. It's not consistent, internally consistent.
Plaintiff's attorney discrediting the defense attorneys.
Well, I don't think Mr. Ramon's version was designed to be
at least attempting
consistent
to.
with the version of events. It happened in less than a second. And we don't know the direction of the skis. In his version, he never testified to the direction of Ms. Paltrow's skis in any of his testimony. Isn't that true?
He did not testify to the direction of her skis. That's true.
Thank you. So if Ms. Paltrow was seen down, turning up to the left, she hits Terry Sanderson square in the back, and they can fall down to the right, especially if her momentum is going, well, I'm not a biomechanical engineer. I'll try to do it right here.
If he says I'm just a simple country lawyer, I'm going to lose
Your
it.
shoulder hits him square in the back, isn't it? He didn't say what part of Miss Paltrow's body hit Mr. Sanderson, did he?
He did not say. He said, well, here, I can tell you exactly what he said. He said,
Take your time.
he said squarely in the back. She couldn't have hit him in the back any better right in the middle than if she tried. And she couldn't have been back on his back anymore than if he would have strapped her on the back, like a backpack.
Generally,
that doesn't mean her body was straight.
Generally, that person's got a smile on the
straight.
Yeah, it could be off center because she was skiing down. She's like this, and she hits him right in the back. Or maybe it was a little off center because Mr. Ramon only had the view for a few seconds. And then her arms could have wrapped around Terry Sanderson, right?
I don't think there's any testimony about that. Is it possible? Maybe, but
Well,
I don't
where
think
would
there's
they have gone? Down to the side? She went in like this?
In front of her?
I mean, the most likely, don't skiers ski like this usually?
Often.
Often? What are the other positions?
They can have her arms in more.
Okay.
So have them out more.
So she could be like
Have her arms
this
down
and
to her
turn like
side
this.
and the poles heading back.
Okay.
There's all sorts of options.
So in that fraction of a second, Mr. Ramon saw the collision. The screen was up here. He turns his head, and she could hit him square in the back. She could have her, at that point, her body could have turned and possibly hit her. But the point is, the skis could have been going at a different angle, one or the other, and still cause this crash. And your versions assume those are not possible because you assume that there's only one way, that their skis were going parallel to each other. This is your only assumption, right?
Yes, let's do a live reenactment.
You made assumptions that these are possible?
I looked at other angles. That's right.
And the testimony, though, you said there's no testimony about the angle of her skis from Mr. Ramon, correct?
That's true.
You've made a lot of assumptions, correct, to make these animations, right?
Yes and no.
I thought that would be a more than one assumption.
There are
That's
some
yes or no?
assumptions. Sure, more than one assumption.
Okay. Less than 100?
Sure.
Less than 10?
I don't know.
You don't know how many assumptions you've made, correct?
That's right. Sure.
Okay.
I'd say more than 100, but you know.
Now, I know Council, Mr. Owens likes to do this a lot, like it's a touchdown. But
Oh, spread eagle.
on redirect, Mr. Ramon, did you see all of his testimony for this trial?
I don't know if I saw all of it, but certainly I saw a lot of it.
Okay. You saw the testimony last week, correct?
Is there any more than that?
There was a little bit yesterday.
Okay, I didn't see anything
Had nothing
yesterday.
to
I
do
was
with this.
traveling.
Had to do with that. Mr. Ramon reported what he saw the same day in the same week 7 years ago. And you're recreating this, what, about 5 months ago, correct?
I don't remember when it was.
Less than a year ago.
I don't recall.
You don't recall when you consulted with Mr. Brill and made the animation?
This has been ongoing for a while. This case has been dragging on, so I don't know when it was.
So you've been working on this for, let's say, more than 8 months?
Sure.
You don't know?
Certainly we've been in contact with council for longer than 8 months.
Come on, he's a busy skiologist. He has other things to worry about.
And for the record, Your Honor, I'd like to move to strike all of his testimony because this wasn't disclosed improperly. I anticipate the ruling, but I just want to, for the record, make the ruling.
It's overruled. It was disclosed properly, counsel.
Okay. What I'd like to do is understand that you've made a lot of assumptions, and the jury would like to know how reliable your opinions are. So how can that be reliable when you totally discount some major events like what the direction of Miss Paltrow's body was compared to her skis? And there is testimony about Miss Paltrow's body movement. Do you know that?
I guess I don't
Prior to the
understand.
crash, just prior to the crash?
What version are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
Do you know about the version of Carrie Oakes?
I don't think she saw the accident.
I would have done the same thing. I mean, he already knows because they argued about it beforehand.
She testified that
absolutely.
one of the kids said,
Moved to
"Mommy,
strike
watch
his
us
testimony
ski."
on the record during
and
trial.
The kids were up there on the left. Ms. Paltrow was
You already
down on the right.
No, it's going to be overruled.
Which would tend to show that Ms. Paltrow was looking up to her left at the point of collision.
I don't recall that.
Okay. So you're excluding Carrie Oakes' testimony, correct?
That's wrong.
You're including her testimony?
I considered it, sure.
And are there any assumptions you've made based on her testimony?
Not in particular that I can think of, but there may be.
So could you speak up?
Not in particular that I can think of.
Okay. Not particularly that you can think of about Carrie Oakes' testimony, okay? Are you an expert on head injuries?
I'm comfortable talking about head injuries from the biomechanics standpoint.
Have you ever studied or held yourself out as an expert on concussion?
If it's diagnosing or treating concussion, no. If it's the biomechanics related to the formation of concussion, yes, I've done helmet research and head injury research, in particular for snow sports.
Did you apply any of your knowledge about concussion to this case?
I certainly looked at it, but Dr. Boehm was very particular in his testimony that it was only the rib fractures that allowed him to say that Ms. Paltrow contacted Mr. Sanderson from behind. So that's what I concentrated on for the jury.
And you ignored his discussion about the head injury?
Oh no, I certainly considered it.
And it's not relevant in this case?
Well, in disproving Dr. Boehm, it's not relevant, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay. Well, it's not clear you disproved Dr. Boehm when you don't even know the direction of Ms. Paltrow's skis at the beginning of this. It's also, I think, a big assumption to say what the body position of Ms. Paltrow was.
Ask a question.
Terry Sanderson in the back.
Sustained, and was there a question in there, counsel?
Just if that was accurate, I'll withdraw it. So you've never studied rib injuries. Have you ever testified about rib injuries before?
Could you clarify what the question is?
Have you ever studied rib injuries and testified about them in the past?
That sounds like two questions.
Have you ever testified about rib injuries in the past?
I don't recall, but it's likely.
Most likely you have?
I think so.
How many,
They're
have you
common.
testified more than 100 times?
In trial, probably 35 times, something in that ballpark.
In total, under oath, have you testified more than 100 times?
Including depositions, yes.
More than, less than 200 times?
Not in this
I agree
country.
with that.
Okay. Let me just check. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Dr. Scher.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bueller. Mr. Egan?
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Scher, we'll just be real quick here. Did anything Mr. Bueller asked you change your opinion that Ms. Paltrow's account is consistent with the laws of physics to your understanding and Mr. Ramone's is not?
That remains the same.
Thanks.
Mr. Bueller?
I think that mischaracterized the testimony.
I think you said this before, that you're an expert in the laws of physics, but you're not an expert in medical medicine or orthopedics or neurology, correct?
I am a biomechanical engineer. I am not a medical doctor. I do not diagnose and treat, but I do look at what forces and what motions create damage to the body.
Thank you.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I call your next witness?
Yay! we
Bonger, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Although I thought that was going to be boring.
Before Mr. Bogger comes up to testify, we may want to take a 5 or 10 minute break. I want to address something with the court outside the presence of the jury.
We'll have to take one shortly anyway, so let's go ahead and do it now.
Ooh, that's interesting. We've got drama.
Ms. Van Orman?
Your Honor, pursuant to our motion in limine, Mr. Bogger's testimony is going to be significantly limited in this case. The problem that I am foreseeing is that I could be wrong, but it appears to me that counsel is going to try and use Mr. Bogger to then describe some further animations and place individuals on that animation. And I have significant concerns with that for a number of reasons. Number one, Mr. Bogger's not qualified to do that. He didn't take any kind of measurements, calculations, determinations of speed, force, physics, etc. in this case. But in addition, in his report, he does not make any mention of where people were, where they were placed. This would any kind of discussion of him talking about the animation, and if he was responsible for putting the people somehow on that animation, he does not describe that in his report. He doesn't talk that in his report regarding participating in an animation. He provides no diagrams in his report, no discussions of where people were or weren't. So I don't think that it would be appropriate for him to even deal with the animation, or that his testimony that he's the one that was responsible for putting, say, Apple here and Moses here and that type of thing. That would go significantly beyond anything he did in his report. So that's my concern, and I wanted to address that now rather than a sidebar.
Thank you. Sure. Mr. Egan?
Yes, Your Honor. So I think our response would be that Mr. Bogger has poured over the records in this case, and he has, in producing these animations, made certain assumptions about which what testimony
exactly what she was
might be consistent with the illustration that the animations provide.
Fair
He can
enough.
be very clear with the jury that he's assuming certain facts. He's not finding these facts. He's assuming that they're true. They come from the record. He can explain that they're rough illustrations. He's not made measurements and decided that, yes, this is exactly 30 feet. He can be subject to cross-examination on any point that might be inconsistent with testimony. He can explain that he chose to assume these facts and not other facts, and that if you assumed other facts,
the opinions in the report.
Illustration.
Next.
And then he will explain that the assumption of various facts that are shown in the animations are consistent with his understanding of ski collisions and skiing generally, which he has decades of experience, not just with skiing himself, but with investigating accidents, collisions, hundreds and hundreds of them for various purposes, mostly not litigation, mostly to figure out risk management concerns, deciding whether certain skiers have to be banned from a certain resort or a ski area. He has ample experience to be able to discuss how to consider various factors in evaluating a ski collision like this that has complex testimony that's not all consistent. And the jury, in our view, needs to hear from a ski expert that knows how to do that and can explain to them the principles that he uses.
Not really.
Not tell the jury this is likely what happened, or that I have found that this must be the case. He'll say, I've assumed these facts. Be very clear about what he's assumed, and then use that animation to explain to the jury how to think through the case, given his ample experience with evaluating ski collisions.
It's not even close.
So, Mr. Egan, I guess I'm still not hearing an expert opinion from Mr. Bogger, is it? Mm-hmm. That would have helped the jury. I mean, everything that I'm hearing has him weighing evidence, has him making decisions about what may have happened on that day. And that's invading the providence of the jury. It's not really going to help them.
Your Honor, I see it as like, say, a medical malpractice case, which I'm more familiar with. If a certain set of facts might be in the record about what happened in a surgery, for example,
they ain't having
a expert surgeon who has lots of experience reviewing records, but also doing the surgery himself, knowing what the training is.
Plaintiff's objection,
look at the various claims.
Horrible,
and
speculative
as you said
testimony.
Your order ruling, I believe, yesterday can say, if we assume these facts, given my expertise, I can say this makes sense, or this is consistent with my understanding of surgery. And so my proposal is that we use Mr. Bogger in that sort of way, where he can help the jury understand, given what he knows about skiing, given what he's a likable guy for sure, that there are certain principles you can use if you assume certain facts to evaluate a certain collision, such that you're applying some rational principles rather than just generally going with a certain gestalt feeling about what someone said. You're actually trying to rationally go through how to evaluate a ski collision, which again he has decades and decades of experience doing.
German in
and he won't say. He'll say to the jury, "You're the ones that have to decide what happened. This is a very difficult case to decide."
Your medical malpractice expert example, isn't that an expert that's coming in to evaluate whether the standard of care was breached?
He doesn't put this stuff.
Yeah,
in the
well,
report. These are undisclosed.
Yes, usually we would.
This isn't close.
In Illinois, an expert in that way, but given your ruling, I'm just trying to use that as an analogy.
In Illinois, the judge
we could still use expertise that would help the jury without rendering that final opinion, telling them, as an expert, you should do this, and I'm really the one that knows because I have tons of experience. Instead, he can say, here's how I evaluate these accidents, and let me show you how to do it. And then they have rational principles that come from his field of skiing and ski accident evaluation that help them. They have not heard. They haven't heard from any ski expert that has provided to them that kind of a rational layout for analyzing the various complex claims in this case. And I think that would help them.
Sure. And I think in my preliminary ruling on this witness yesterday, I'm losing track of the days here.
Yeah, me too.
I think I stated that he is qualified, certainly has qualifications, and can testify as to what a reasonable skier would do or not do in a certain hypothetical set of facts. But in terms of applying and weighing the evidence in this case, I think that goes too far.
Okay, so but if we showed the animation and we made it clear to the jury that we're assuming certain facts, we're not weighing them. We're just saying, look, let's take these facts. We're assuming them. We're not saying that they're proven. We're just showing you how to analyze the facts, assuming these various parts of the testimony are true. That would be too far, you're saying?
That sounds like closing argument. It doesn't sound like what a witness can offer under Rule 702. He can talk about, he's an expert in skiing. He can talk about skiing dynamics. He can explain what a snowplow is, what parallel skiing is, what what the rules of skiing are generally understood to be. But in terms of taking that next leap, I don't think he can say, I've looked at the deposition testimony and I can tell you who's at fault here, or I can tell you who did something wrong here.
I think he's pretty good
I think
overall.
that's the jury's responsibility.
He was way too indulgent in the
A
beginning.
witness telling the jury how to make its decisions or how to
but
how to make a decision that's either an ultimate issue
sort of
or one
settled
of
in.
the issues leading up to that ultimate issue.
So even him explaining his process for how to evaluate ski collisions would be too far?
To what end? Why does the jury need to know how he evaluates a ski collision?
Because evaluating ski collisions is a complex matter and he has expertise as to how to do that.
Yeah. Right now I'm just talking or I'm responding to your question sort of in a vacuum. I don't know what it is he's offering.
If it would help, I could give you kind of an example. Like,
sure.
If I could say, Mr. Bogger, when you evaluate ski collisions and you've evaluated, have established that he's evaluated hundreds of ski collisions. Have you ever evaluated collisions where there's conflicting testimony? Yes. When you approach that testimony, what are principles you use
in one of my
to evaluate that? And he can explain those
zipper
principles.
hoodies.
He doesn't have to talk about the facts of this case. He can explain, here are these principles. I don't think the jury's heard that. I think it would be helpful to them. I think it would be rational and it wouldn't be overbearing.
You're asking him how he evaluates credibility.
I guess that's true.
How does he reconcile different accounts?
Right, but we wouldn't, if given your ruling, we wouldn't go into applying it to this case. We would just give them the rational principles that would help them weigh the evidence. It wouldn't tell them how to do it. It would just give them a framework for doing it, which only he can provide. They have not heard from somebody that does this for a living, has done it again.
And how does that vary from what the jury does? If you look at the credibility jury instruction that I've already read, for example, and how does that differ? I mean, where it talks about conflicting testimony, how does what he's offering provide any specialized knowledge? I consider that generalized.
Yeah, so I don't think he would just talk about, general principles of evaluating witnesses. He would talk about particular aspects of a ski slope or witnesses on us. If he were here right now, he could help me.
He is right.
Yeah, right. He is right here.
So when ski accidents happen, and people go to the ground, their skis get released. I could see that as specialized knowledge, just like this witness offered something along those lines.
Yeah, no, that is an important thing. He can explain.
But in terms of this skier said such and such, and this skier said such and such, but this is how I evaluate that aspect of it. I think that's invading the providence of the jury.
Okay.
On deciding how to weigh testimony.
Okay. I mean, for the record, if I may, Your Honor, I think we put this on before, but in case we didn't, we believe the motion to exclude Dr. Bogger or limit his testimony is untimely, and that Greg Skordas, their expert, whose report does much the same thing that Mr. Bogger's report does, should be limited in the same way. Again, just renew our request that he be able to speak to the jury about his evaluation of the ski accident.
So just again, my sort of ultimate conclusion on what I'm hearing on this motion to reconsider and on the response from the defense is that it's up to the jury to decide ultimately what the parties did, where the parties were positioned, and who ran into whom. So it's up for the jury to make those decisions. So as long as this witness steers clear of those areas, that's the main emphasis of my preliminary ruling, and I'll have to hear what's being offered.
Do you mind? I know I'm not an old man, but my memory has failed me. Those three again. Who hit whom? Going backwards.
It's up to the jury to decide ultimately what the parties did.
Right.
In other words, leading up to, during, and after the accident. It's up for the jury to decide that. And various experts have given them some helpful information, like the biomedical expert gave testimony as to what the biomedical evidence reflected that would help the jury make that decision. Just like this past witness gave the jury some biomechanical information that will help the jury make their decision about what happened in that accident, what the parties did, where the parties were positioned, and who ran into whom.
And the reason that you see Mr. Bogger as doing something different than, like, say, Dr. Schur just did, who took the jury through assuming these various facts. I'm not telling you that this account is true. I'm just taking as an assumption what Ms. Paltrow said was true. Let's analyze it. You're seeing Mr. Bogger as different, and I'm not totally sure how. Do you mind explaining that?
The plaintiff's witness applied biomedical principles in a methodical way to the different versions and then handed the jury that information. The biomechanical expert that just testified applied biomechanical principles to the different versions and gave that information to the jury to help them make a decision.
Okay. So,
and what I see this witness doing is reading different accounts and reconciling them and wanting to give his reconciliation to the jury, which I think is too close to what the jury actually does. It doesn't help the jury from an expert standpoint.
okay. So it sounds like you're not persuaded that of our position, which is that he has skiing expertise similar to like a biomechanical engineer has, and can apply that to the facts in a way that would provide the jury with some, again, rational scheme to.
Okay, that'd be a no.
Too.
Right. Okay.
And the same is likely going to hold true to Mr. Scortis' testimony.
Okay. And you say likely.
I've heard you make kind of a motion. I haven't heard from the other side whether they're opposing that in some way.
I see. You're just waiting till you have more specifics.
If he's the same type of an expert, and I realize that he may not be a risk manager and he may not be a ski accident investigator for an employer, but it sounds like his testimony is along the same lines.
Right. Okay. So just in terms of guidance on this ruling, you mentioned the bindings, and I apologize for going long. I just want to make sure that we
specialized knowledge,
right?
So they can help the jury in making their decision.
So in your mind, would something like recognizing that the positioning of the skiers, if one skier is uphill, applying a certain knowledge of skiing, that would suggest certain things about the accident, would that be out of bounds?
I guess I have to hear the question, but it sounds like you're getting back into making conclusions based on an investigation. If you lay out some hypothetical facts to say if this skier was here and this skier was here, from a skiing standpoint, and then ask questions based on that, I could see that. But
okay,
it's feeling a little too hypothetical right now.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Thanks for your patience with my questions.
Sure. Ms. Van Orman.
Circling back to why I raised this in the first place is the concern with the animation. And so what I don't want, because Mr. Bogger apparently had some involvement in creating the animation, which was not designated in his report, nor was any mention on what his involvement was, what he did for it, how he placed anybody anywhere. There's no discussion of any of that. I don't think that it's appropriate for him to comment on the animation and to say, well, yes, I saw that, this helps me because I'm the one who helped to place these people there. It would have been, again, by reading the depositions and applying, which is what the jury needs to do. So I would say he can't even talk about the animations because that just goes beyond the scope of his report, anything that he's done in the case.
I would agree.
Unless the foundation can be set.
I haven't heard anything that would establish a foundation.
We have been broadsided, Your Honor. We had a 37-page report produced a long, long time ago. There was a motion deadline that we respected months ago. These issues were ordered were argued 45 days ago.
Cram it,
And
spread
then
eagle.
immediately
You didn't
before our
disclose
witness
opinions.
is going to take the stand with
The
this
supplemental
37-page report,
It ain't going in.
we get essentially a midnight filing and that guts half of his opinions. I don't think it's fair, Your Honor. I can't even read the darn thing. I'm focused on getting my witnesses
I don't
ready.
think it's fair.
To us, Your Honor, because we can't properly brief this in days.
I've already ruled that the initial motion was timely, and I made a ruling on the initial motion. The subsequent motion was not untimely. The court has agreed to reconsider the motion, and that's what I've done. And I don't feel that it's unfair or unduly prejudicial. You were aware of the issues with his report long ago.
But you ruled in our favor before.
What I ruled was that the initial motion didn't give the court enough to grant it.
Because they
and so then there was a
poorly
motion
briefed it.
Then there was a motion to reconsider that gave the court more information, and I can see that it would be. I mean,
you can't poorly brief
you don't want to.
a motion.
I mean, this would create an appealable issue. Do you want to do that for your client? Is my question.
No, but I don't want to. They poorly brief something. The judge denies it. Then right before the testimony, they better brief it, and now we lose. I mean,
that's what trial is.
Law. Have you ever done
trial.
it before?
Things happen. The points that were raised in the motion are valid points. They're sound. They're based soundly on the law, and I want to make sure that what the jury hears is sound and not subject to any more risk of appeal than possible. So we'll take 5 before the jury comes back.
All right. I got stuff to get to. I'm gonna have to close this down, which is too bad. But you know, I thought the morning was a complete waste when we started off that they were gonna call this expert witness. I'm like, this is gonna be boring, and it was. But I didn't know. I didn't know we would get stick figure twerking. I mean, that was just a bonus. It saved it all for me. All right. I've got stuff I need to do in real life here, so I must run along. I know, I think Emily D. Baker's doing it. I don't know who else is doing the trial right now. Of course, Long Crime's doing it. You can just watch their feed. If I get back, I'll pop back on, but I don't know if I will, to be honest. So thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all soon.